Hey everyone, welcome to the Arseholics podcast on Bank Holiday Monday night. You got me, Raj. You got the other two musketeers with me, Mize, Aaronin. How's it going, boys?
Yeah, good mate. Good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to talking about mainly about the game, obviously. Man, I mean, I don't know where to start, but I mean, obviously we will. Yeah, shame D'Artagnan couldn't join us on the pod for such a to review such a massive game. But I wonder if we might be able to get Nero, for one of the final episodes, just for just to give it to the fans, give the fans what they want, right? Fingers
Maybe
crossed.
if we win the league, that's the one he joins.
Well, we have
all that. The first thing you want to talk about is Nero.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Actually, that's true. I miss the guy sometimes. Anyway, I mean, yeah. Let's try. You're right. Let's talk about. God, what everyone it feels like not just Arsenal fans, but all Premier League fans. Everyone were talking about this game over the bank holiday weekend because it was a crazy game. So Liverpool 2, Arsenal 2. I mean, it didn't feel like a 90-minute game. It felt like a game that just, it's like a Lord of the Rings trilogy epic kind of thing. It was just it had everything, and it just God. Why don't we just say how we feel? I mean, 2-2 title race is, it was the final countdown. We talked about it last week. It's the real deal now. It's the last. Well, that was the 9th last game. Mice, how do you feel after that and after the result? Do you feel good? Do you feel stressed? Do you feel anxious?
It's been 24 hours, more than 24 hours. So I wouldn't say I'm anxious anymore. Yeah, like you say, man, it was a game that just took you through all sorts of emotions. Yeah, first kind of 30, 35, 40 minutes, whatever it was, 35 minutes. I was dreamland, absolute dreamland. 2-0 up at Anfield. One of the toughest games we've got in the run-in. One of the games that we've all picked out, looking at the run-in as, considering our record at Anfield and the fact that it is Anfield and it's Liverpool away, and to be 2-0 up in that first half, quite literally in dreamland, and already started kind of picturing, wow, what if we actually get 3 points here, and where, what does that actually mean? Not so much what does it mean, but that is massive. That is massive for us in this title challenge, and probably got a little bit carried away. But yeah, look, I think on reflection, overall, it's disappointing whenever you're 2-0 up in any game, right? Like, doesn't matter who you're playing, what the opposition is, home or away. If you go 2-0 up, you're in a position where you can obviously, hopefully, control the game and see it out, basically. And obviously, we weren't able to do that. But I think you've got to give Liverpool an element of credit, because that second half they were really, really good. They created chances. They put us under loads of pressure. The whole Anfield factor really kind of played into, came into the game, and you could argue we were quite lucky to come away with the point, given what happened in that second half. They missed a penalty. So overall, look, I think I'm pretty happy with it, with that point. It's hard to say. It's hard to say right now, isn't it? Because we won't know until the end of the season. That point, that Ramsdale save, or there's a couple of Ramsdale saves at the end, that missed penalty, that could all come back to that could become a huge point and huge moments in our season, or we might still be a little bit short. It's hard to say until we get to the final stage. But I think overall, for me, I think it's a point gained, but it's still a slight frustration that we weren't able to, at 2-0, we weren't able to get in at half time, 2-0 up, and then sort of see how the second half went.
Aaron, did you feel that point gained as opposed to 2 points lost? I know it's hard to really, both those things are true, I suppose. But how do you feel as a glass half full or half empty? You're on mute, mate. I mean, speechless. Still on mute. Jeez, this guy. I mean, how many episodes have we in? 103?
Amateur hour, eh?
So the guy who's in charge of sound as well.
Yeah, I was actually making a really, really good point. No, I've kind of gone like from one extreme to the other, back and forth about a million times since full time, about what this result means. So over the next hour or so when we're discussing this, I'm probably going to do a full 360 on everything I've said and what I'm going to say now. But honestly, I think I'm actually a bit disappointed. I think that's my view is like before the game, I predicted a win, and the fact that we didn't win against this Liverpool team is, I think, a bit disappointing. And look, I don't think this is going to, I think people online are like, the minute you criticize the team, you criticize the manager, you're just being negative and and that you're like not being reasonable. I don't think this result is going to really impact our title challenge that much, right? I think the way the season has gone so far, we basically had one lifeline. Assuming if City are going to be perfect, we have one lifeline and we lost that lifeline yesterday, and that's okay. Losing your lifeline at Anfield is not, an embarrassing thing. So, and we can go on to like what this means for the title challenge. But honestly, if I look back at it, I think this is a Liverpool team. We went away to a team that was 20 points behind us, about 6 or 7 places below us in the league. We were winning 2-0, and we've come away without a win. Like, yes, it's Anfield, and sometimes I think everyone's like, oh, it's Anfield. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're going for the league, you have to see out those games. You have to win those games.
Are you oversimplifying it though on that?
No, I think people are like over emotionalizing it, if anything.
But part of the reason why people are doing that is not necessarily because of what we as fans think. It's about what players say constantly about playing at Anfield, right? Players who have won titles. You sort of heard Gary Neville even talk about it. He just basically said, you're someone who's been very critical of Arsenal every now and again. He's basically like, you can't say Arsenal bottled this because this is just. No, Anfield.
I don't think we bottled it as such. I don't think we did enough to win the game. No, I don't think we played well. I don't think we played well. Yeah, I don't think we played well. Like, I don't think I don't know if it was the emotion. I don't know if it was the atmosphere. Like, for whatever reason, I mean, we can discuss it. We didn't play well enough to win that game. And we didn't play well enough against a team that we are significantly better than this season. So this is, and people are making out that it was like the Anfield of old, where 2 years ago, if we went to Anfield, even last season we went to Anfield, we got a point. That's a great result. I just think, I know Liverpool have a good home record, and I know they've done crazy things at Anfield, but I think maybe I expected too much of this team, and maybe I expect this team is not there yet, where it can go and like destroy some of those emotional narratives. But we've got like some big high pressure games coming up, and it would have been really nice to just remove that fear from this team. And yeah, no, we didn't. Like, and obviously, like, you'd offer me a point on 89 minutes or even the 92nd minute, I would have taken it, right? But before the game, if I said, would I have been disappointed with a draw? I would have said yes, probably. And if you asked me after 38 minutes, would I be disappointed with a draw when we're 2-0 up? I'd say absolutely. So yeah, I think my main conclusion here, my gut feel from this is that I'm kind of annoyed.
I think it's fair. I think a lot of Arsenal fans feel the way that you do. So even though, I don't think there's a right answer here. I mean, Mike, what do you think? Do you feel the same way?
I wouldn't know. I'd probably say, I think Aaron is maybe, I think I'm giving, Liverpool are still, they've been poor this season. They've been erratic this season. And for whatever reason, things have kind of just not happened for them this season. And yeah, you look at points, you look at league position, all the rest of it, then that indicates that we should just go there and win. But that's not how it works, right? The Premier League doesn't work like that. We play Southampton in a couple of weeks. We might not beat them. Like, I'm not saying we will or won't, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just the Premier League is a competitive league. And I think ultimately still look at some of the players that Liverpool have got, and especially going forward. And I think I said this in the preview episode, they're still a very, very good. They still have a very good group of players. They're maybe not as good of a team as they've been in the last few years. And they haven't maintained those very, very high standards. But I feel like 90 minutes, any given match, and yeah, at home, at Anfield, it's just a tough away day. It's a tough game. And I agree with Aaron on the point, it's a good point that he made, to be honest. Aside from that first kind of half an hour when we did seem to control the game and we did seem to dominate, and we took advantage, we went 2-0 up as well. But as soon as they came back into it, as soon as they scored, and pretty much the whole of the second half, we were on the back foot, and that is a little bit disappointing. And I know we're going to get into that, but I don't know. I still look at it as a point gain, just because I think you look at the opposition, and like I say, they haven't had the best season, but it doesn't necessarily make them an awful side, or a side that by default we just go there and win it. And we've got a really bad record there. Like, I don't know if that plays on the minds of the players. I don't know if that plays on the minds of the coaches, but it was a good opportunity to go and win there. But at the same time, like, every time we've gone there the last few seasons, and I know it's a different Liverpool, but we've not won there in 11 years, and every time we've gone there the last few years, they've just absolutely wiped the floor with us, scoring like 3, 4, 5 goals. So I don't know if that, like, does that play into it this season, when this season, we're a very, very different side and we're much improved? Maybe not, but I guess it does if you're a player that's gone there for the last few seasons and you haven't been successful at all. But yeah, I agree with elements of what Aaron is saying, but some of it, I don't know. I feel like Liverpool deserve a fair bit of credit, and I still rate them as a team. Like, I'm sure they'll be, but I'd put them in my top 4, top 5 teams next season, possibly pushing for the title again, maybe, depending on what happens in the summer. So I don't think they're all of a sudden like this like spent force, as it were. Dangerous on their day, and yeah, like Aaron has said, they've got a good home record. I think they beat City at home, right? Obviously smashed United the other day, a couple of weeks ago. So yeah.
Well, shall we break it down a little bit then? Because we, like you both mentioned, like, for the first 35 minutes, we did. I don't think it's possible that we could have played a better, first half an hour in terms of everything. If you imagine what Arteta must have said to them before the game, it's like, this is Anfield. We know the crowd can be there. It's not like most clubs where they're the 12th man. They're the 12th, 13th, 14th man when Anfield gets, behind you. It's like, we've got to silence the crowd. We've got to keep the ball. We've got to kind of play it forward. We've got to keep it at a good pace, do all the basic things right, and try and score early, right? Everything that he probably would have wished for, we did. We executed everything. We scored first. I was probably, we looked like we were getting right from the first minute. There was a decent chance. Martinelli down the left, had a really, really good break. He was brilliant, and we'll get onto that a little bit more later about him generally. But then we score. We then go score another goal, a very different type of goal, but a quality second goal. Completely, the fans were totally silent. This is the perfect half an hour. I mean, what do you think, Aaron? What did we do in that first half an hour? Why was it that Liverpool were so, I guess, blown away? And what was it that we did so well?
We played our game, and we asserted ourselves on the game, and everything that we've been doing so well over the whole season, we did, right? We were like aggressive, pushing forward. Our defenders were aggressive on their forward, like their attackers. Gabriel was magnificent against Salah. Martinelli did all the right things. Saka did all the right things. Partey, Odegaard, everyone just did their job and did it really well. And it resulted in 2 chances. We probably could have scored more if we were, as good as we played. I don't think we played like on 5th gear. I think we were still like playing quite cautiously in that first 35 minutes, and we still scored two goals, and we still did really well. And I think that's what makes the rest of the game really frustrating for me, is because we did the hard part, right? Like you said, Rog, the dream start would be going there, killing that crowd, just killing their any hope they had. And it's a shame we didn't get a 3rd goal, because I think if we'd got the 3rd goal, it would have been game over. But to go 2-0 up there is a huge testament to the way we played, and I think you have to give the team credit for doing that. And it's what makes the rest of the game a bit of a mystery to me, because I've watched it, I watched the highlights, and I still can't figure out why we just stopped doing what we were doing in the second half.
Miles, you agree with that? That first half an hour in particular, you before the game, we talked about lineups, and you said that when we talked about one of the big decisions in attacking sense, it was about whether you go with Trossard, who has a hat-trick at Anfield before and has been really good with us, or do you go from Martinelli? And your preferred choice was Martinelli. You said you want to see him start, and you're like, you basically said that he could retire Trent. And I mean, like he was that first half an hour, he was absolutely unplayable. It was like there was something iconic about that first half an hour. It's almost like a bit of a changing the guard type thing, where you've had this Liverpool team who have just been outstanding, right, for like a number of years with this Salah Mane kind of combination, and they were just like absolutely devastating. And this felt like a little bit of a, okay, now there's a new boy in town. Now there's a new time. There's a new kind of a front three that everyone needs to be afraid of. And to kind of introduce it in Anfield in that way, it felt kind of iconic to me, that first half an hour, because you know, like sort of Aaron mentioned about, you know, not necessarily being fifth gear. I think we've talked about before about the fact that when you are a team that wants to win big games and win big things, you're not going to get hundreds of chances at games like away at Liverpool, away, whatever. You're going to get a couple, and you just have to be quality in those moments. You have to. And Martinelli was quality in that first half an hour, and pretty much everything he did, wasn't he, Miles?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think you've put it pretty well in terms of the comparison between Liverpool's, I guess, previous front three and what we have now, in terms of our kind of new and young front three. But yeah, like Martinelli was, exactly, unplayable. I really wanted him to start. I think he's been in really good form the last few games, scoring goals, assists, looking dangerous again. He's obviously, Jesus is back as well, and we know kind of how well those two link up. And I was just keen to see him go at Trent, basically. And he did that from the first minute, right? Like literally, I think it was pretty much from kickoff, or definitely within the first couple of minutes. You know, he's taken it past Trent, got to the byline, and basically fashioned a chance. And I think we get a corner out of it. And that was basically he kind of set the tone pretty much for, again, that first half, or first portion of the first half. And he was unplayable. And I mean, like you said it, Raj, in the group chat, right? Like, this is a real statement from Martinelli, and that's what it was. It really was. He has that in him, right? That is his game. In terms of just being able to take people on, taking risks, and him and Saka all season have been doing that for us, and just pretty much like both left and right sides, just so dangerous. And I was very, very happy that he started, and I think he proved that he was the right option. So thankfully Arteta went with him. And
quick one on it. But do you think signing Trossard and the form Trossard's been in, do you think that has spurred him on, Martinelli? Has that challenged him to take it to another level?
Yeah, I think it had. I mean, like they always, so it's a bit of a cliche, but that's what they say, right? Like competition breeds success. And I think, probably going back to the start of the season, there wasn't really anyone. Smith Rowe was injured. There's not really anyone challenging for, and I think Reece Nelson was injured as well. I think Martinelli probably knows, and Saka probably knows, they're both starting most games. So yes, it's a good point. I think it must help you lift your level or go to another level. It must push you to do a little bit more. And like I said before, he's been delivering in terms of goals and assists. And so quite possibly, I think now we have genuine competition in two of the front three positions when you think about Trossard. And it was a bit of a coin flip. Like, I didn't know who was going to start. Like I said, I wanted Martinelli to start, but you mentioned pre-match, you thought Trossard would start. So I think between Arsenal fans, I don't think anyone really knew who Arteta was going to go with. And I think that's, again, testament to good recruitment in January, and the fact that we now have those options across the front line to sort of change it around depending on the opposition, depending on the game and fitness and everything else. So it must help elevate his game a little bit. But he was fantastic, man. Like, the goal was brilliant. I thought the touch just before the touch he takes to shoot, if it feels like he's either miscontrolled it or it's just a slightly heavy touch, but then he manages to just sort of get a toe in and nip it past the keeper. But again, him going through the middle, dangerous, exactly what we want to see. And then Konate and Trent were scared of him the whole game, pretty much. Every time he got the ball, they were scared of him. And the cross for Jesus, that pick out is a brilliant pick out, and Jesus picks up a really good position between Van Dijk and Robertson, isn't it? He's in between both players, and it's really good forward play. It's not something that we actually associate with Jesus that often, but it's really good forward play because he gets into the space and Martinelli picks him up beautifully. It's a beautiful cross, such a good ball, and very, very good start to the game, and good. It was fantastic from Martinelli. He was playing so well.
It was world class from him that first 30 minutes, but so many other players, like you mentioned, Aaron. And let's talk a little bit just before we get to sort of maybe the turning point of the game and go onwards, because I feel like from that point on, there's going to be, it's almost like a different game to analyze. But prior to them getting back in it, Gabriel, he's had to probably think a little bit differently in this game because he's playing with Holding. And it's Holding's first Premier League start in, I think, away for quite a while. I think. Exactly. Like so, in a game,
I'm sure one of those two.
Yeah, so in that kind of game, and Gabriel, who has been, ever present, so there would have been a lot going on in his mind. He knows it's not William Saliba playing next to him. But what did you feel about his performance in that first half an hour?
About Gabriel or Holding?
About Gabriel.
All right, okay. No, I thought he was magnificent, and he was. It was just one of those where he just looked like a man possessed for most of that game, and even in the second half when we weren't playing that well, I thought, it was very clear to him that his job was basically stop Salah, right, and that as a left-sided player is probably the hardest opponent you're going to face all season, right? There are no better right-sided players unless he's coming up against Saka in training. There are no better right-sided players in the league, in my opinion, than him, right? And Salah he had a really, really good game, and especially in that first 30 to 40 minutes, I thought Gabriel just owned him completely. And even in the second half, he was really good. And I thought he was dominant. He was aggressive, but he didn't, he wasn't reckless. And he just looks like a player this season who has really, really matured his game. And, Gabriel 2 seasons ago probably been sent off for doing something stupid or just got 2 yellows because he could control his aggression or he went over the top. But I think the way he just handled Salah was really a joy to watch, because I think a lot of the times Gabriel sometimes goes under the radar a bit because he's not what I call like a match of the day player, because what he does just doesn't come on match of the day. But actually, I think you could probably make a compilation of just what Gabriel did in that game and just show it. I'm sure someone has made it on Twitter. I'm sure someone has made a compilation, to be fair. And you could watch it and he'll be very, very good.
It's really interesting. So I took something quite differently away from that game, to be honest.
You thought it was rubbish?
I don't think it was rubbish at all. Well, okay. So firstly, with caveat, I think he's been the best centre back in the Premier League this year. Firstly, right? So this is me just talking about this game in particular, right? And I think the first 30 minutes, I thought he was incredible. I really thought that as much as we looked so in control, part of it was because he was so in control of everything that was going on around him. Little things, he just seemed one step ahead of everyone, all their forwards. It was incredible, actually. But I think if you look at the game overall, the stats do paint a really different picture of how Salah was kind of managed for the game overall. So I saw one of the stats for the game. This was Salah's highest XG in any game in his Premier League career.
Yeah, I saw
right?
that.
But okay, I mean, I know we can't leave stats or whatever like that. But obviously, in the most basic level, what that means is that he's had more good chances in a game than any game that he's had previously in the Premier League. Yeah. And he's probably, and maybe the penalty also goes towards your XG. I'm not sure how that works, but he's probably had games where he's had penalties before. So, biggest XG ever. Now, that in itself, in isolation, if you just say that in isolation, I'm not sure we can say in the same sentence that one of our centre backs dealt with him incredibly well for the whole game.
Yeah, I see what you mean. No, you're right, because if Salah takes his chances, he potentially has a hat trick
Yeah.
in the game. But honestly, if Salah had scored a hat trick, I still would have said Gabriel was excellent yesterday. And I know that's counterintuitive when the guy you're dealing with comes and scores 3, but I don't think that was down to Gabriel not being good. I think that was down to Salah just being in one of his moods where he is literally unstoppable, and B, just the players around him, Salah moving to positions where Gabriel isn't, or just like even the goal Salah scored, I don't think that was Gabriel's fault, right? It was a really lucky goal with a massive deflection and everything just landing in the right place, right? So yeah, no, I think Gabriel was really good all game. I think he was one of our best players, him and Ramsdale. But look, I take your point, because how can you do that if hypothetically Salah scores 3 goals?
I think the other. I was just sorry, mate. Go on, Karen. Finish.
No, I think I've made my point, right?
Well, I was just going to say one of the other reasons probably why Salah, like you said, look, probably the best right-sided player in the league, if it's not Saka. And when you play a system where Zinchenko is often found in the middle of the pitch, and then Gabriel, you're therefore one-on-one with your centre back. Normally, most other teams, Salah's going up against the team's left back, and then you've got your centre back inside to cover, obviously, right? So I guess again, against a very good attacking team, there's always that risk that we're just going to be slightly exposed, or going to be a bit more exposed in those types of games.
That's a really good point, right? Because even on a normal day, our system generally leaves Gabriel quite exposed, right, to your bang average right-sided winger, like, I don't know, Anthony or someone like that, right? But but actually, the interesting thing is, usually, I think at home when we played Liverpool, he put Tomiyasu in because he was like, this guy Salah is like the one guy you don't want to leave exposed, like you leave your centre back exposed to, because he has the potential to make any player, any defender in the world look absolutely silly. And I think it was a bit of a calculated risk to say, look, we're just going to have to try and play our game. And the consequence of that is we're going to leave Gabriel exposed and leave him sometimes one-on-one with Salah, and he's going to have to do a job on him. And I think he did it as well as he could have done, right? I think in a different team, a different system, like you said, Mize, we probably double up on him and we put someone else there, and he's not the crucial element in stopping him. But through a combination of maybe us being a bit more aggressive and us not having a more defensive left-sided player, that was the kind of game we went with.
Do you agree with that, Miles? I mean, anything to add? Because not just Gabriel, in himself, but we talk about how we defended generally. Okay, we were under the cosh after kind of 30 odd minutes. We really, really took a lot from Liverpool. And I mean, a lot of that probably is mental, as in, but when it affects you mentally, ultimately on the pitch, that will have to transpire in a technical, deterioration. Otherwise, you end up still being able to deal with it fine. But what did you think defensively? Was there anything that you could pick out as to why things went badly?
I'm not necessarily sure why things went badly in terms of generally, but specifically the goal. I mean, look, we haven't spoken about the first Liverpool goal yet, right?
No, so why don't we talk about the goals, right? Or just tell you what, why don't we pause on the goals? Because it'll feel weird coming back to this if we've already discussed the goals. Let's talk about what many people were sort of debating about as being a key turning point in the game. Everything's at this point, everything's going really well for Arsenal. We're 2-0 up. Van Dijk has just gone and fouled Jesus on the side of the pitch from a clear kind of, I'm fed up, you guys are dicking on us, like I'm bored, I want to go home type tackle. It was everything's going, all Arsenal. Then there's an incident that happens. I think someone, I want to say Konate, is it, gets into, tackles Xhaka. Xhaka feels like he's fouled. It's not given. Xhaka gets up and kind of tries to get the ball off Trent, but kind of bangs into him, kind of, and it was an intentional physical challenge, which makes Trent retaliate. And Trent retaliates and they square up. The crowd start getting a bit, riled up. Both players get yellow cards. And since then, a lot of people have debated as to whether that was a key turning point in the game. Did that rile the crowd up? And then did the crowd then G up the team? And therefore, should Xhaka have known better than getting himself into a situation like this, given the history of Anfield and whatnot? Miles, I'll tell you what, I'll go to you first, because I've gone to Aaron first so far, I think, on this show. What do you think? Do you agree with that?
So, look, there's no Xhaka slander or hate from me, because he's been magnificent this season, as we all know. And I think he's been so important to so many good things that we've done this season. But I think Xhaka at the end of the day, funnily enough, we haven't really seen that kind of petulant losing your head side from him much this season, if at all. And I think that, it's an emotional game. It's a kind of highly charged game. It's a pressure game. And I think that was probably always going to happen at some point. And when it first happened, I was a bit like, look, what the hell are you doing? Because not so much because it riled up the crowd, but it just seemed unnecessary when you're in control of the game. And we were doing what we were doing at that point. 2 goals to the good. You've got 10 minutes to go to half time. It's like, that's like game management time, right? Just manage the game for 10 minutes, get into half time with that lead. And then you plan your second half and you set yourself up for the second half to, see the game out essentially, or try and get a third and finish the game. And I don't necessarily think that incident leads to them scoring, but it obviously does contribute to the crowd. Because like you said before, right, the crowd were completely silent, pretty much. Well, not completely, but they were silent after we got those 2 goals. We really, really silenced, that Anfield crowd. And it just felt like it was just a bit of an unnecessary kind of moment where he's lost his head ever so slightly. And it's just helped give the crowd a slight lift, a slight boost. Now, I'm not saying that necessarily means that they, by default, they're just going to go up the other end and score. Of course not. But just felt like it could have been avoided. And also, slight side note, it felt like throughout the game, I don't know if it was the ref not giving them, but it did feel like we were trying to win. We were trying to, win fouls when they maybe just quite soft tackles. Like there were a few bad challenges or challenges that were punished, but I don't know. I saw Saka go down a couple of times, saw Xhaka go down a couple of times. I think Erdegaard once or twice, where the referee just wasn't giving it. He just wasn't giving those free kicks yesterday. And that was another one where Xhaka's gone down quite, in my opinion, I think he's gone down quite softly. So I don't even think it was a free kick. So I don't even think he had much to really complain about. So then the reaction after that, even, that it just feels even more unnecessary as a result of the fact that it probably wasn't even a free kick. Maybe it was, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think people are making a bigger deal of this than they should be because it's Xhaka, which I think is always going to, it's always going to happen when it's him, unfortunately. But for me, it's just he could have just kept his head a little bit, avoided it. And as one of the more senior players as well, if not the most senior player, just help the team see out the last 10 minutes. We didn't need to get involved in any incidents at all. We didn't need to get involved in anything. We were in control. So a little bit frustrating, but I'm not attributing them scoring and making it 2-1 purely down to that, because you can't. They might have gone and done that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there are hypotheticals, like you say. It wasn't, for example, that he conceded a free kick and then that free kick led to a goal, etc. But at the same time, I mean, it is quite clear that incident happens. The crowd who are asleep, like you mentioned, then kind of come up, and Liverpool score very, very soon after that. So those things are true. Whether, like you say, there's lots of hypotheticals in that, but those things happen. But Aaron, I know at the time you felt it was very harsh when, the commentators and, actually, even after the game, the pundits were all fairly unanimous in sort of saying, look, why the hell did he do that? Did you feel that was that was fair?
I think I broadly agree with what Maya said, right? Which is, look, should he have done it? No. right? You don't want, regardless if it's Anfield away or if it's a home game against a League Two team, like Xhaka shouldn't be like Xhaka should know his reputation first of all, and he should know that you give.
Why does that matter?
Because
why does that matter?
That is the way Xhaka is reffed. He knows this. We've been through this journey enough times with him that if Xhaka does something bad that is not a card, Xhaka will get a yellow. If Xhaka does something that another player gets a yellow for, the referee will consider his reputation and think about giving him a red. But that's not the issue here, right? Because the issue is not that him getting a yellow card. The issue is the whole, him retaliating. It's a couple of things, right? Yeah, it's Xhaka retaliating. But if that was Saka retaliating, do you think the crowd would have been like? First of all, do you think Saka would have been booked? Maybe not. I don't even think Xhaka did anything that bad, to be honest. Like, I think it was just a little scuffle. Trent was being a bit annoying. Xhaka was being a bit annoying. I think a good referee just dusts that off, breaks it up, and just gets on with the game. But I don't think the referee helps by just making it into a thing. And then, but should Xhaka do it? No, he shouldn't, right? He should just keep calm. He has no need to go and get involved in that. All of that is true. But the way, I don't know if you guys are watching with commentary, but the way Gary Neville and Carragher were just like ripping into Xhaka, and I'm not a Xhaka fan, right? I think he's a bit of an idiot.
Yeah, you're the one who wants him sold.
Yeah, I'm not a Xhaka fan, right? And I think he is, although he's been very good this season, he will always have this liability tag on him, and he will always be reffed a little bit differently. And that was a very good example. But the way Gary Neville and Carragher were going on about it, Neville especially, it was like they were trying to make so desperate to make it a story that the reason Liverpool scored was because the crowd were up for it. I think that's nonsense. Like, yes, it happened, but there were a lot of other things that happened. And then, like, even the post-game interviews, Jeff Shreves was asking, I don't know if it was Arteta or maybe Klopp or maybe both of them, what do you think about the Xhaka incident? And they were looking at him like, well, what are you talking about? Like, it was a foul.
But what are they going to say about it? Do you
know? No, but they were like, these are two unconnected incidents. Yes, it does it help? No, it doesn't help. But is this some kind of like massive turning point? Like if Xhaka had two-footed someone and he got sent off, fine. That's not what happened, though, is it? Like there was a moment afterwards where actually I thought Gabriel Jesus was like making a big. I think he got fouled as well just before, and then he went off on one. I thought that was maybe him like getting, and then the crowd really like were up for it at that point. But no one's saying anything about Jesus when he was arguably worse. So yeah, I just think, look, it was their goal was they had a few chances beforehand, and they had this chance. And actually, I watched the replay again, and basically the way it works out is because Ben White's on a yellow from that earlier challenge. I can't remember who he fouled. He can't take out the man, like someone in the build-up, and then because he doesn't foul him, it all goes through, and then it plays through, and then Salah gets the goal from a deflected deflected shot or deflected cross? I can't remember.
Cross, and then Henderson deflects it, yeah.
And yeah, like it was just really unfortunate they scored when they did. And
it's poor defending though. Do you not think?
Yeah, because I think Holding gets exposed 2-on-1. Ben White's out of position because he doesn't win that challenge earlier on. And yeah, you're right. It is poor defending, but like ultimately, a bit like our first goal, like the ball broke the right player at the right time, and they finished it, right? And if we had just held out till half time, I think it would have been a very, very different game. I think ultimately the thing that let the crowd back into the game was the fact that we conceded on the 43rd minute or whatever it was. Yeah, I don't think it was anything to do with Xhaka.
I think they were already. I thought. I think you're being very, for a guy who you want to be sold, I think you're being very, very, very kind to him. To be honest, I mean, but
yeah, obviously he shouldn't have done it. I'm not, but yeah, it was such a minor thing.
Well, put it this way: do you remember last season? Right, last season when we were at Anfield, there was an incident with Arteta on the touchline. Yeah, and I think the score was 0-0 at that time. And I remember the commentator saying it. I know, because we were listening while we should have been listening to your wedding. I remember them saying at the time They were like, why has he done this? He's basically just riled up the crowd now. The crowd are now going berserk, whatever. And, Gary Neville said it in his podcast, which I haven't listened to, but I've seen, an extract from it where he's basically said, it's like a golden rule at Anfield. Just don't, if the crowd are asleep, just don't do anything to wake them up. Just don't. It's like a golden rule. That's what we know as professional players. Don't do it, right? So in that, I feel like you can map out the events. That incident happened. The crowd did start getting riled up. Liverpool scored. I'm pretty sure the Gabriel Jesus thing happened after they scored, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that
was
that
it? Maybe I can't remember.
But I agree, that was a bit weird as well. I completely agree. And so I think it's just one of those where you just suck it up. Just suck it up. Just don't be that guy. Yeah. But I don't know. That's it. Miles, you got anything to add on that?
Not really. Yeah. Just on the goal. I agree, Raj. He just doesn't need to do it. He's reacting to a decision he hasn't got off the ref, and he goes in on Trent. It's what Xhaka does. He's tried to give him a little kick or what. Just nibbled when the opportunity is there to nibble, and kept an arm up or an elbow up as well, and just completely unnecessary. Just don't do it. And yeah. Who knows what would have happened afterwards, but it was just completely unnecessary from my perspective. But yeah, with the goal, I think it's really poor from us, to be honest. I mean, I don't know about Ben White being on a yellow. Taking someone out in that position, I don't know if you necessarily would have needed to have done that anyway. Obviously, in hindsight, yeah, it would have been great because they've gone on to score. But he's out of position. I think that happened earlier in the half as well when Robertson has that chance. He's out of position as a ball over the top, and Robertson gets in and probably should hit the target. So it happens the second time, and that's a bit worrying that same area, same part of our defense that's been exposed. But it was really weird because then it's Jota who makes the overlapping run, and no one tracks him. Like Ødegaard's with him, and then Ødegaard just stops. Partey's kind of, I don't know what he's doing, to be honest, in the sense that he seems to be just kind of holding a position in the box where he's just covering an area as opposed to trying to track anyone. Jota's just got this free run, picks up the ball and no pressure on him at all. And that was the most frustrating thing for me, because just defensive discipline, track your man, very basic thing, and we didn't do it. And that's kind of how they create the chance, obviously. And yeah, they get a bit of luck with the deflection from Henderson, and it falls to Salah or whatever, and but yeah, I think it was a really poor goal to concede, and yeah, just the worst time as well, right? Just the worst time to concede. 2-0 up, and you're just really hoping we can just see it out, and we couldn't, and that's what's really frustrating.
Do you think? I kind of just think since the start of the season, we have since the World Cup, we just haven't been defending that well. And you're right. We had there was that Robertson chance. There was this chance. There was all the stuff that happened in the second half. I just think, as a team, for whatever reason, we're just not defending that well. Bournemouth cut through our defense within a minute, and they scored again. And I think it's a bit of a concern, to be honest, our defense.
It's quite interesting because I've read a few things about this, which suggests that there's actually a systemic reason why some of this has happened, which is, I don't know if you remember, but prior to the World Cup, there were some concerns about actually how we looked going forward, because I think it was the nature of the goals that even though we were doing okay, the nature of the goals, it wasn't quite like how we started the season, where these goals were coming from all different directions with really interesting and unique ways. It was a bit different, and it seems like people who have tried to do the analysis have seen that since the World Cup, going forward, we've looked different. So we've basically ended up, as opposed to having 5, when there's the new Arsenal possession where you've got it's 2-3-5, I think is the kind of setup. They've actually gone to a 2-2-6, and lots of times where effectively we just got even more people in that front area committing even more bodies forward, which has sort of created a knock-on effect, therefore, as being kind of less defensively stable. And they're putting that down to potential reasons. So obviously the observation that you made, I think, is a completely accurate one, but it actually could be not because our players are doing something that they were doing before worse. It might actually very well be because the system's changed. And to be fair, we've been scoring a shed load more goals. You know, like I think for the last few games, I think 2 is the fewest amount of goals we've scored recently, right? It's been pretty interesting. But look, in the interest of time, if I could just sort of move on slightly, because there's another really key moment in the game, which is the penalty incident, and which Salah goes on and misses. Myers, plenty of debate about whether that was a penalty or not, and I think it also then led to a lot of questions around holding and whether, you know, is this I mean, you know, I feel kind of sorry for him. It's him that concedes the penalty, but a lot of the talk before this game was about, oh, is Saliba going to be fit? If he's not fit, is that going to be a big issue? You know, and it hasn't been an issue the last couple of games. We've managed to get through. We haven't kept clean sheets, but we've managed to get through. But this was Liverpool, and you know, moments matter, if you like, and that penalty happened. Talk with you. Did you think it was a penalty? Did you think holding was at fault?
I think at the time I thought it was a little bit harsh, but admittedly I was out in a bar and had quite a few drinks, so, and emotions of the game, I think probably just like bias, probably didn't think it was a penalty. But yeah, look, I've seen loads and loads of replays, and I think it's just one of those unfortunate ones. I don't think you can not give it, if you know what I mean. Like, I think the referee has to give it, because even though it's not, I don't think it's like it's a foul, because they're both just running in the same direction away from goal, and it's a bit of a tangle. But it, like you said, Raj, again, I think you said it in the group chat, it's just clumsy. Like, I think given that he's going away from goal, as a defender, or as the player defending in that situation, you probably just want to just keep everything clear of Jota. I think it was Jota that he fouls, but just keep everything clear, right? Keep your legs, your arms, everything clear, and just let him, like, you know, give him half a yard of space. But he just seems to be too tight to him, basically. And sometimes just it's a bit of an unfortunate one where, yeah, it's a bit of a tangle of legs. He's obviously not trying to tackle him. He's not really trying to win the ball. He's just sort of shielding him out and just gets too tight. But I think you have to give it as a penalty. So for me, yeah, I think it's a pen. I don't know if you guys think different, or.
Well, Aaron, how do you feel about it? Because I think at the time as well, you didn't think it was a pen.
As in, is it like by the rules of the game, is it a penalty? Yeah, right. And therefore, like, we could just end this discussion now. But
but fair, yeah, fair. Yeah. But, I mean, if it's the other way, you know, you would expect Arsenal to have it.
Yeah, but I guess it's more just the way Tierney had refereed the game, where it was like he let a lot of other things go. That was one that potentially he could have let go. But it's one of those where it's like, if that's happening outside the penalty area, I don't think it gives it as a foul.
But do you think, Aaron, that's because when those things happen and they happen outside the penalty area, they're not necessarily to do with a very pivotal moment in the game? So whether the referee gives it or not, it's never scrutinized afterwards. It's not like afterwards they'll do a review of the game and goes, do you remember there was that tangle in the middle of the pitch that you didn't give a foul? Well, it should have been a foul. They don't do that. But in this instance, if he doesn't give the penalty, and, you know, afterwards they kind of look at it and go, oh my God, Arsenal won the game and there was like an obvious penalty he didn't give, he's scrutinized.
I don't think, you know? Put it this way, if he hadn't given it, would VAR have overturned it? I'm not so sure, right? But I can't disagree by saying, like, that's some outrageous penalty, or Jota's dived. You're right. Like, holding is clumsy. Like, I think a top level Premier League defender should just know better, right? But it's one of those where it's like, it's a scrap in the box. He's just running forward. I don't think he's like tried to take Jota down, but Jota's just been very clever. He's slowed down, and Holding's basically just run into him, and he's quite intelligently gone down. But yeah, like Maya said, an intelligent defender kind of anticipates that a forward player is probably going to try and do that, and you just keep away. But it's hard to actually blame Holding for that as well, because I don't think he's done much wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And then Salah missed the penalty. You could argue it's a genius decision to foul him because it was a dangerous situation in the box, isn't it? But can I ask you guys a broader question about, you know, we don't know when Saliba's going to be back. And on the basis of this game, you know, against Liverpool, are you more or less concerned about what that could mean? I.e., really, the question I'm asking is, do you think that we looked a lot worse with holding in a big game like this than potentially you think we would have with Saliba. Miles, I'll go to you.
Not really, mate. I think Rob Holding had a pretty decent game, especially in the second half, where I know that, we obviously conceded another goal, but there were no, considering, we were under the cosh for the majority of that second half, and especially the last 10 minutes and the 6 minutes of added on time and everything. There were no concerns from me. My main concern is always a concern with Rob Holding is if we play a high line and there's just space in behind, he will get exposed, and we didn't really see that. We didn't really see that often, if at all, where it was Holding that was sort of the player that was out of position or couldn't get back because he hasn't got the pace to recover. So I think it was quite important in that second half, to be honest. There was balls coming into the box. I remember there was a couple of corners that he cleared because he's very good aerially, and he does do that, and that's one of his best attributes. And experience wise, I think considering he's our fourth choice of centre back, whatever he is, third, fourth, maybe even fifth choice centre back now, it's not that he's not the worst option. And I think I said something very similar the last time we recorded. So not really. I mean, look, obviously the City game is the one, isn't it? The City game is the one that we're all looking at, and I think that's the one it sounds like the club are targeting to get Saliba back by if he's going to be out for a little while, because we saw what Haaland did to Holding in that cup game. So we definitely don't want to see Rob Holding starting, unfortunately, in that game at the Etihad. So hopefully Saliba's back before then. But I think to manage, was it 2 games before we play City, West Ham and Southampton, I think it is. If we can manage those 2 games, I think if we can get through those 2 games, which we should be able to do without Saliba, then it's just all about the City game, and fingers crossed Saliba's back for that one. But not really, man. I thought he had a fairly decent game overall. It's a bit, like you said before, it's a bit unfortunate that it's him that gives away that penalty. But to be fair, I can see Gabriel giving away a penalty like that. I could see
Saliba giving it away.
Well. Exactly. So it is unfortunate that it's him, but it is what it is. I think he had a fairly decent game. He was pretty solid overall.
I think, the thing with Saliba, it's not, when you compare the two, it's not really what Holding does. It's more like what Holding doesn't do in terms of what Saliba does. It's like you can't be you can't look at Holding's game yesterday and been like, oh, well, what did he do? He didn't do anything wrong. You're right. He had a really good game. He won some really good headers. What we don't know is if Saliba was there, what would have happened? Is Saliba a better defender? Yes, we know that. We know that Saliba is much better on the ball, right? So the thing we don't know is, would we have maybe scored a third goal? Would he have assisted? Would he have been involved in a piece of play that allowed us to break and get a third goal? Or, maybe he is in a better position to stop one of those attacks. It's really hard to do a like for like comparison, but I don't think any of us are suggesting that Holding is all of a sudden in line to be a first choice centre back. We know Saliba is better, right? But actually, for a second choice centre back, or a third or fourth choice, whatever he is, he did all right. He did as you would expect a backup centre back to do.
But it's you put it really well. It's not necessarily about the things that he does; it's about the things that he doesn't do. But because of the things that he doesn't do, I'm massively concerned now. I'm more concerned after watching the Liverpool game because, and partly there's the benefit of hindsight and there's a benefit of analysis, etc. But when you look at some of the highlights of the game, and if you look at two things that Gabriel and Saliba both do amazingly well, it's not that it's not just that they're both good aerially. It's that whenever they're taking balls, in sort of pressure situations aerially, they're really good about where they head it. They're really, really good at that. And whether it's kind of directly to a player or outside of a danger zone, etc. When you look back at the game, it's really interesting because it's almost like and maybe it's harsh because Holding's obviously, I can imagine he's quite nervous coming into this because I imagine he knows if I don't play well, everyone's going to say that I'm the reason that we've lost, right? So if you look at a lot of the times where he's heading the ball or in pressured situations, he's going safety first. So even the times where it looks like he's got time to think about it, a lot of his headers are going straight to Liverpool players. So he's getting the header, but straight to a Liverpool player all the time. Even times where he's thinking about it. Times where, you know, maybe he could pick a pass, he's clearing it. Fair enough. Maybe in his mind he's gone, because I don't want to cost us a goal, and, you know, he doesn't necessarily back himself technically, etc. And the other thing is that it's, again, with the whole thing, the whole point of the things that, you know, he doesn't do. It's really hard to know how many tactical tweaks we may have made because of him. It's hard to know people's positions, etc., whether that had anything to do with him. The interesting thing is, right, is if you look at the 2 goals, you can't really isolate him as at fault for either of those 2 goals. That, you know, there's actually a number of other people you could probably point to, but he's not one of them for either of those goals. But it's quite hard to know whether other people are behaving in a certain way because of an unfamiliar entity in some way. It's quite difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure it's affected Ben White's game.
Like, definitely.
Perhaps, but because even the second goal, you see when they're analysing it, everyone's kind of going, why was Gabriel running so far out? Because because Gabriel is nowhere to be seen when the ball comes in, and it, you know, so you almost assume that he's done nothing wrong, Gabriel. But the fact is, he was in a really, really weird position to begin with, and you sort of think, well, would he have been in that situation if Saliba was there? Is that indecision? So maybe that's not a holding concern. I think maybe that's the point I'm trying to make here. It's not necessarily that it's Rob holding; it's that it's not Saliba. I think is the problem.
I think a lot of the narrative around Rob holding is like people are quite desperate to, when we don't win, to have a scapegoat where it's very easy to be like, we didn't win because of Rob holding. That might be true. That might be true yesterday, right? Where you could say, if we had Saliba, we might have won, but we don't know. And it's just Saliba's out, right? And we've got a third choice centre back playing. Is he as good? No, he's not. Otherwise, he'd be first choice. We just got to deal with it, and he's got to do his best, and we've got to figure out a system that makes it work. And we just have to hope that by the time we play Man City, Saliba is back, because then it will be a problem, because Haaland is the type of player, like Maya said, who will deliberately go out to expose a weakness in the back four.
Can we talk very quick about Aaron Ramsdale? Because it would feel out of order if we moved on and didn't talk about him, because he, in the last 15 minutes, probably the last 10 minutes, has pulled off three match drawing saves, or whatever you want to call them. The first was a 1-on-1. I want to say, is it with Nunez or whatever? I can't remember who it was, but it was a 1-on-1 that he saves. You probably think he, fine, decent save, well done, Ramsdale, but it's still, still a clever save. And then he's made 2 worldies right at the death, which the second, the first one, which is off Salah, that it's the deflection, which is, it almost makes the shot a perfect shot. It's going right. In fact, it's and Ramsdale makes a worldie. And at the end, geez, to Konate, I mean, you would have forgiven a goalkeeper for giving up in that situation. You would have forgiven a goalkeeper for going, well, this is going in. I'm just going to token, and he's kept us, and he's basically got us that point. Aaron, and I'll go to you first this time. I mean, what was that? Was that one of the kind of iconic goalkeeping performances of his career at Arsenal so far?
Yeah, they were amazing saves, I think. Yeah, look, they were. I think, but actually, I think Ramsdale's been quietly this good for the last 7 or 8 games, and actually, someone made this point, I think, on social media, is that because we haven't been on TV for a while, we've had a lot of Saturday 3 p.m. games, and a lot of people just don't see Ramsdale in the UK unless you're an Arsenal fan who is streaming the games. And I think for a lot of people, they were just very, very surprised at how good Ramsdale is, because this was a big game, Sunday 4:30, and he came up with some big saves. But Ramsdale's been doing that consistently, in my opinion, over the last 2 or 3 months. He's been consistently in big moments when we're hanging on. The Bournemouth game, I remember he made a few saves. I think against Villa, he made a few. The Villa game, he made 2 or 3 big saves. And it's a concern because he's getting exposed quite a lot, and he's being put in positions where he needs to make those saves by our defending. But he has been unbelievable for the last 2 or 3 months, and he's getting overlooked. And I think I'm really glad he's getting the recognition now that he deserves, because even in the punditry, they were talking and saying like, "Oh, I was really surprised when Arsenal bought him from Sheffield United or Bournemouth, wherever we bought him from." And it's like they're only realizing now that he's a top goalkeeper, and we as Arsenal fans know how good he's been, and I think this just put him in the spotlight. But some of their saves were unbelievable, especially that one we had to adjust from the Salah deflected shot, because he's a type of keeper that goes quite early in a lot of things. Like, he goes big on saves, right? And that's why people sometimes accuse him of being like a what's the phrase, like a Hollywood saves TV goalkeeper. But that's his style. But with that, because he went early, he was able to save it. Otherwise, he doesn't. And then the other one, the Konate one, he just basically just throws himself at the ball and hopes for the best. And obviously, he's in the right place at the right time, and that's half the skill of a goalkeeper as well.
He's 24 years old as well, right? That's incredible. I mean, this is 24 is not, it's not just young for 24 for a goalkeeper is basically 18 for an outfield player, basically, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
he's probably going to peak later. Listen, let's look forward now. How do you guys feel about the title race now? It's there's 6 points in it now. We've played a game more still. The way that the fixtures kind of have laid themselves out is a bit weird, right? Because we end up playing at some point soon 2 more games than City have, so we'll have like 2 games in hand over them at some point. So it's kind of annoying in that way. You kind of it's a lot more fun. I feel like a title race where you've got that they've played the same amount of games, but it's also a really unique situation where both teams have it in their hands, right? It's that kind of unique combination of games and fixtures and of points and fixtures rather, where it's in both teams' hands. So, Mice, do you feel differently, worse, better, whatever? How do you feel post Liverpool about Arsenal's title prospects?
I think I feel better, to be honest, because there's just hardly, there's such few games left to go. Every game that you can tick off and you get a good result. Obviously, we need wins, but Liverpool away, that point, I think is a massive point, and it's another game ticked off. So I think, and I saw a lot. Look, yeah, like we've analysed the game, and there's a lot to look at in terms of things that just didn't go quite well, and how we were able to let go a 2-0 lead, and Rob Holding playing when we need to lead back, all of these things. But ultimately, a point away at Anfield could still, like I said, could still be massive. So I think overall, like I'm probably feeling a little bit more not positive, what's the word, maybe a little bit more hopeful that we might be able to do this, basically. But the next 2 games obviously are just like, every game's must win, but they're just, we have to win. We have to go and beat West Ham. We have to beat Southampton, because like you said, Raj, the way the fixtures are, I think 6 points now. If we win our next 2, we go into the game at the Etihad 9 points clear, I think. And that, I think, because I feel like we're going to need to get something at the Etihad. I'm a bit worried that if we go there, whatever the gap is, but even if it's 9 points and we go and lose there, it just makes the next game, which might be Chelsea, I could be wrong, but whoever we play after that, and then the upcoming games, especially when you've still got to go to St James's Park, like it puts a lot of pressure onto those final 4 or 5 games. But look, I think I'm feeling pretty positive, to be honest, man. Like, we've got a pretty much fully fit squad. We're playing really good football at the moment. The Liverpool game was probably like the game at the Etihad is going to be hard. The Newcastle game is going to be hard, but the Liverpool game was one of the biggest tests that we've got. We've come through it. And yeah, like you said, it's in our hands at the end of the day. It's in our hands. If we go and do the business in the next 2 games, that would leave us with 6 games to go, going into the Etihad, going into the game at the Etihad. And I think, 9 points clear, that could be massive. Like, just from a mentality perspective, it sends us into that game full of confidence. It sends us into that game knowing that, a defeat's not the end of the world, but we can go there confident with that's a big gap with 6 games to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm feeling fairly positive. I'm not saying we're going to win it because there's still a lot of football to be played, and City are Man City. But yeah, man, if we'd have lost yesterday, that would have been really bad. I think if we'd have lost yesterday, that would have been really bad. And the fact that we've got through it, we've come out with a point, it just could end up being a really, really big point come the end of the season.
Agree. I mean, Aaron, do you think City would have watched Arsenal's game and thought, amazing, they've dropped 2 points? Or, damn, I can't believe they ended up with a draw? How mentally do you think it would have affected them?
I think they'll be happy we dropped points. Because... it's incredible to think that they only scored in the 87th minute or something, which is killer for us, right? As much as they smashed us in that second half, we were 5-6 minutes away from coming away with a win, which is really, really frustrating. So ultimately, when a team drops 3 points in the 87th minute, you're going to be happy. And then, I think, look, I've always not been confident, right? Before this, I was never confident that we were going to win the league. Like when I looked at those fixtures and the points we've got them in, unless City do us a favour, is the way I say. If we're going to win it, I think City will have to drop points, either to us directly or somewhere else. And I'm really, really worried that City can and probably will just win all their games. And if they do that, I'm actually okay with that, right? Because that means they've probably gone and won like 14, 15 games in a row. And you just take your hat off and you say, like that's just ridiculous. Like we're just never going to be able to compete with that. That is like super team level when they just go elite, right? And it'll be really frustrating if they do that, but you can't then say, oh, it's because we drew at Anfield that we've not won the league. No, the reason we've not won the league is because City have gone and won 15 games in a row. And so, but like my fear was always like, we've got to go to Anfield, we've got to go to the Etihad, we've got to go to St. James's Park, and we've got to be perfect elsewhere. And I still don't see us doing that. I still think we've got more issues to come. We've got another draw in us at least somewhere, I think. And then there's a City game where, like, who knows what's going to happen. So, I mean, the good thing is, even if we lose to City or we win everywhere else, it's then going to be a goal difference shootout. And that's going to be, probably not going to go in our favour, but it's still not over if we lose to City, I think. Is that right?
It's
3 points now, right? It's
6 points. Yeah.
6 points.
But
They win the
hand.
game in hand, and then we lose. We'll be level on points. And then it'll be goal difference. I think they're 5 ahead at the moment.
Yeah.
So even then, it's not over, right? We could still go into the last day, knowing like we potentially need something.
They've got Brentford away on the last day. It's not.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of permutations. I think all we need to do is just go game by game. And actually, what will be interesting now is like, ideally, we need to start winning and winning big. I mean, we have been winning big, but we're up against Man City, who are smashing everyone 3 or 4-0 or whatever it is at the moment.
Yeah.
And we just need to hope for a little bit of luck somewhere, right? So yes, they are capable of winning every single game, but will they?
Well, they've got so since that season where they just basically won, I don't know, 1,000, at the end of the season. The few seasons that have gone since then, from they've basically dropped an average of 5 points in this period. Yeah.
So we just need someone to do us a favor. I don't know where that's coming from. It might be in the last day against Brentford. It might be somewhere else. But we just need to stay in contention up until the last day. And we might do it. But I still don't think we'll do it, to be honest.
I was just going to say, that surprises happen, right? We're trying to map it out all the way to the last day. Who the hell knows? I think they've got Leicester next weekend.
Yeah.
You just don't know, right?
That could be a 6-0 or it could be a 1-0 win. You never know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You read into it so many ways. It looks like Dean Smith's going to take over at Leicester.
Dean Smith. I heard Rafa Benitez for a second.
Well, apparently they're talking about Dean Smith. Some Arsenal, there's always an Arsenal fan who's ahead of the curve. Some Arsenal fans immediately pulled up Dean Smith's record against Man City, and he's lost every time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry, Miles, I interrupted you.
No. Well, it was. What was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to predict, right? But like Aaron had said, we just got to take it game by game and do our job, right? We've got 2 very winnable games. I know we're going to obviously talk about West Ham, but 2 very winnable games coming up. If we don't win those 2 games, then we don't really deserve. If City then go on and win it, we don't really deserve to win the title. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, yeah. So we just got to do our look. At the end of the day, if we do our job, there is obviously the possibility that we win every game, but we lose the City game, and it goes down to goal difference. But that basically means City win every single game, right? So that could happen, but I'd say the chances of that happening are fairly small. So I feel like if we win every game, I think we could afford to get a draw at the Etihad and we win the league. If we win every other game,
we can probably afford to lose then, right?
Yeah, well,
mathematically we can afford to lose.
It'll go down to goal difference on the
No, but if you assume that City don't win every game,
but I'm kind of backing ourselves to do the biz. But look, man, it's like what 8 games to go, whatever it is. There's still a long
8 for us.
Yeah, I think I should put it that way, Mike. If we win every single game except the City game and we lose the City, I think we'll win the league. Because that is the only way we don't win the league under that circumstance is if City win every single game.
Yeah. I agree.
But
it's one of those things. The odds are neither Arsenal. The odds are Arsenal and City will both drop points between now and the end of the season, right? I mean, history will probably tell us that therefore City will drop less. But I think this is a unique season. No one thought we'd be here. So who can how much can you really tell? But just short term, West Ham. Mice, this is a big game for you always on the calendar, isn't it? Your brother-in-law is a West Ham fan, so it's big. So, and you're going to this one, with your lovely wife. So,
she's not coming anymore.
Oh no, okay.
So, yeah, she can't make it. Well, I say she can't make it. We've got childcare issues that day, so she can't make it. I'm definitely still going. So my cousin Jonathan's coming now, who actually promised a ticket to initially. So, but I am going. Yes.
To tell me, what do you think? What is it going to be? You guys going to be coming away from East London happy?
I think so, man. Like, I can't. Yeah, I mean, how can you predict anything other than an Arsenal win? West Ham have been dire this season. They've been awful, but thankfully they've picked up a couple of wins in the last few games. Obviously, I know they got smashed by Newcastle, but they picked up a couple of. They basically picked up 6 points in the last 9. And I think they've now, it was a few games ago, that relegation bottom kind of 8 teams, it was so tight. And I feel like West Ham have slightly pulled away with their results, just ever so slightly pulled away. And I think the pressure's now off Moyes a little bit. If they'd have come into this game right, where they were 3 games ago, basically, I think they were in the relegation zone or just above it, it becomes a game where they might need to get a result. I feel like pressure's off for them. Not pressure's off as such, but I feel they'll look at other games in their run-in that they'll target as the games they have to win or get some points from. And if it feels like they're probably just going to do enough to get out of get out of this relegation.
They're also they've got a Conference League quarterfinal away in Europe on Thursday as well. So they're away
exactly.
Genk or Ghent, one of the two.
Ghent, I think it is. Yeah, exactly. So focus for them, is going to be on that this week, which should play into our hands. So look, I can't see anything other than Arsenal win. I think the only reason Arsenal don't win is if for whatever reason we turn up and don't put in a performance like we've been putting in performances all season, basically. For if that happens, either complacency or we just don't turn up or it just doesn't click. I don't know, but West Ham's always a weird one because they've still got really good players. Obviously, one of them that we want to buy, but they've still got some decent players, and I guess they could potentially be a dangerous team. But yeah, if we're talking about Aaron and you were saying earlier, Liverpool are 7th, 8th in the league, we're 20 points ahead of them. We should be going there and winning, and you're disappointed that we didn't get the win there. Then look, come on. We have to go to West Ham and win. So yeah, I'm feeling confident, man. Nothing else to focus on. We don't have any other games to focus on outside of the Premier League, obviously. So I can't see us sort of, if there's any game that we're going to kind of slip up in, it shouldn't be this one. Do you know what I mean? it's just full focus on getting 3 points. And like Aaron has said, I think it needs to be doesn't need to be, but it'll be good that if it's a I think it should be a convincing win, because I think we're a hell of a lot better than West Ham. And yeah, like I said before, it's just a must-win game, a very winnable game. So yeah, I think we'll win on Sunday.
Aaron, did you share the confidence?
I share the requirement that we have to win. I don't want people turning around to me next week being like, well, it was the Olympic Stadium, and teams don't go to the Olympic Stadium and win. All that stuff. Like, why did you get the crowd at the Olympic Stadium riled up? So they can't even see at the Olympic Stadium properly, let alone get riled up, because it's so bloody far away from the pitch. But
you're turning into you're turning into the Roy Keane of this panel a little bit.
No, we have to win basically, and it's the stage now where these games are actually the ones we might need to win big to get that goal difference back up, because the games that we've got West Ham, Southampton, then it's obviously Man City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, right? And they're going to be they're not going to be goal difference games. They're going to be get the 3 points somehow, right? And therefore, if we're going to have to make up this 5-goal difference on City, we probably need to start going for it. And I really do wonder if that will change. I hope the team have realized that, and I hope the manager has realized that, is that you don't want it to be too late. You don't want to get to having lost to City, being level on points with them, but City being 9-10 goals ahead and having 2 games left where you've got to make that up. So you want to start doing that now. So yeah, I hope we win, but I actually hope we win comfortably as well.
I don't think they'll be looking at the goal difference personally, because I think they'll just be looking at it as we just have to go and do what we can do, what's in our hands. And if we do that, the goal difference doesn't come into it. I think obviously they're going to go out, and if there's an opportunity to, if we go up early or whatever, and there's an opportunity, or basically if the game turns into a bit of a 2-0 or 3-0 and there's opportunity to score more goals, and of course they'll go and do that on the day. But I just can't see them talking about it and saying, what if we're 10 goals behind or 5 goals behind with a game or 2 games to go, whatever. What do we do in that? Do we we don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, I just think it's like you said. I think it's one of those where the club have to be aware that they need to make up goals, right? I don't think it changes the game plan before the game, but like you said, if we're 2-3 off at half time, don't bring on a Jorginho. Bring on another attacker, you know what I mean? Because we need goals. But let's get to that bit when we come to it. Right? Exactly, I remember saying before the Bournemouth game, this is a goal difference game. We barely got the 3 points. So let's deal with it when it comes to it.
Yeah, and I agree with what both of you said. There's no way that West Ham should be getting any points off us this weekend. There's no way, really. I mean, I actually, to be honest, Miles, I hadn't even really looked at the table until you mentioned that they seem a little bit safer than they did before. I mean, you're right. I actually thought they were still around 17th, 18th. But you're right. They have, it's 3 points, but they've got a game in hand as well, I think, over some of the teams below them. So you're right. I think even for that reason, there's a little less for them to get complete. Because I think that Arsenal must be this really annoying team to play against at the moment. Whoever you are, because of the amount of energy and belief that we play with, it just must be really tiring. And I imagine it's just annoying, and because that's what it felt like at the beginning against Liverpool. It felt like Liverpool just I really can't be bothered to deal with this. Not right now. I've got enough going on. I don't want to deal with this. It was that kind of vibe. So look, I think that if we go to West Ham and play like we did against Liverpool in the first half an hour, and maybe don't do the things that we did later on, which I don't think will happen, because I don't think the Olympic Stadium atmosphere is the same as the Anfield's atmosphere. Man, it could be a battering, but there's a little bit of me, right, who's that feels that we've still got we're almost due and I don't know if this is because of the Arsenal of past. We're due a game where we're battering down the door and it just doesn't happen. We completely dominate a game. We have 20, 30 shots or whatever, and for whatever reason we don't win. There's a bit of me that feels like we're due that, but maybe that's just the the experience of Arsenal So I'm just I'm going to go for a prediction of 3-0 Arsenal. Mice?
3-1. I think we'll concede again, but 3-1, I think it'll be a convincing win.
I'll go optimistic and go 4-1.
Okay. 3s and 4s generally. Okay, so we all think it's going to be a comfortable win. So look, I think we'll leave it there. We've been talking for a while. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Those who join us live, really appreciate it. Those who have listened post the fact, really appreciate that too. And please like, subscribe, share. We really appreciate you. And Aaron and Mize, thank you, friends, for joining me. Good chat as always.
Thank you, mate.
Very much. Cheers.
Have a good night. And Mize, enjoy the West Ham game. Please represent. You know,
I will.
do the
Looking
classic
forward
Mize
to
hooligan routine. Do it. Just go.
I'm in the
full
upper
Mize.
tier, so no running on the pitch or anything. But yeah. Look out.
It'll be interesting to see how that is, right? Because when we went, we were in the
it's
lower
meant to be
tier.
awful.
Have you been up to? No,
I think I did
I've
upper tier a
been
few
lower
years
tier
ago.
once. So
Yeah,
upper
I think
tier.
upper tiers like there's this like massive platform between the two tiers, like a flat platform, and it just makes you feel even more further away from the pitch than you do anyway. So yeah, I don't think it's the best view, but not really going for the view, going for the vibes, going for the atmosphere and all of that, and hopefully just
Going
get
for the win.
points, man. Yeah, exactly.
Nice one. All right, guys. Good night.
See
Talk to you
ya.
later.